Hello and welcome to Some Boy Online. So if you're a fan of the channel, you may be familiar with another of my Wallace and Gromit videos, covering Lenny Henry's different take on The Wrong Trousers, which startled some viewers to say the least. So today I bring you another piece of obscure media, but this time a little closer to home, as it comes directly from Aardman themselves. I was actually hesitant to cover this topic due to the sheer lack of information surrounding it, but then concluded that it's better out there than remaining a forgotten piece of media, so here it is. This fire safety public information film, coined Wallace and Smokey online, was developed by Aardman Animations in 1994, and was clearly commissioned in the style of Wallace and Gromit. The film encourages viewers to turn off and unplug all electrical appliances in the household before going to bed, which ironically I think has now been proven to damage electrical equipment. You know, repeatedly unplugging stuff. I'm sure my nana used to do that and end up blowing fuses. But anyway, I've seen a fair few of these public information films, which seem to be prevalent from the 70s through to the 90s, in the UK at least. Many of these were designed to scare and shock viewers, children especially, with one notable film depicting Death himself preying on youngsters who play in the potentially dangerous bodies of water. Which, gets the job done, I suppose.
I'll be back.
In the case of Wallace and Smokey, however, the tone is more relaxed than anything, whilst still getting the point across with a serious undertone, as ever with these types of films. It's noted in the upload's description that the film seemed to feature in BBC close-downs late at night during the mid to late 90s. These were, if you didn't know, when TV would end at a certain point. There was no 24-hour schedules as there is now. Television would just finish, and you go to bed.
And so as we say goodnight for this evening, we'll leave you with our very last look at the BBC One Globe. Good night.
But now I'm going to break down the film itself, which is where it gets most interesting. We begin with a jittery pan across a cosy looking home, which shows a cat lying on the floor, being the titular Smokey, with the owner sitting completely stationary just off to the right. His face is obscured through a combination of lighting and framing, along with the general low quality of the VHS recording. One thing's for sure though, the design is heavily reminiscent of Wallace, or at least an amateur rendition, as although the film released in 1994, placing it after The Wrong Trousers but before A Close Shave, the quality of the animation throughout is more comparable to A Grand Day Out. This could be down to a number of reasons, but I'm willing to bet it was a combination of a tight schedule for the animators and a less than generous budget to work with. An alarm bell then rings, which startles the cat, and then we hear the owner speak. We also get a close-up of him.
Bedtime already?
But his face remains obscured, akin to Mammy Two Shoes from Tom and Jerry. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about, where you never see the character's face. You may already have noticed at this point that along with the general Wallace shape of the character, he also wears a green jumper, with a white shirt underneath and brown trousers, along with slippers like those seen in The Wrong Trousers. The novelty of the film is that the man has strange gadgets all around his house, which need to be turned off by Smokey the cat, who does all the work, whilst the man sits at the comfort of his chair. Quite a familiar dynamic, I'd say.
I like a 3 minute egg. Whoa, steady on. Wow! Gromit! Oh!
The voice also bears similarity to Wallace's own, while sounding familiar in general.
Don't forget to turn off the TV and pull out all the plugs.
Although there's no information as to who voiced the man online, so if anyone recognises it, let me know in the comments. If you're wondering why I referenced the live-action Wallace and Gromit skit earlier, there is a moment from this film that completely brought me back to it. A very tiny detail that you can only notice if you pause it at exactly the right frame.
Then guard that fire and close the doors.
What is it with these creepy Wallaces, man? So I can only assume that the aforementioned budgetary restrictions were responsible for the startling appearance of this character. That and the fact they probably didn't expect people like me scouring through the footage frame by frame on a high definition screen in 2021. So the man basically looks like early Wallace from A Grand Day Out in the shape of his face, just with a smaller nose, I think a bit hair and, oh, no eyes. Not to mention the unsettlingly broad smile which, coupled with the bright red lips and clenched eyelids, reminds me heavily of the puppet from the Five Nights at Freddy's series. This all begs the question, if Aardman made the film themselves, then why does this seem like a knockoff version of Wallace and Gromit, when they themselves own the rights to the actual characters? Well, there's a few possibilities. The first is once again in regards to cost, as Aardman would likely have requested a fee for the use of their characters, and by the looks of the animation, there wasn't much of a budget. So this has some credence. On top of that, they then have to pay Peter Sallis, who was the only actor to have performed Wallace at the time, so there wouldn't have been much choice in the matter. Finally, it's possible that Nick Park himself intervened, perhaps feeling that a public safety information film wasn't very appropriate for Wallace and Gromit. With the whole set, the somewhat rough-looking Wallace, not Wallace, and all the inventions that we see, I have a feeling it's plausible that this was originally intended to feature Wallace and Gromit, before they were switched out for these other characters last minute. Though it could have just been that they wanted a new character as a mascot for fire safety, hence the aptly named Smokey. So yeah, this isn't, as some people speculate, the precursor to Wallace and Gromit, as it was created during the height of the franchise's popularity really. So as far as we know, Wallace didn't own a cat called Smokey before Gromit, and certainly didn't replace Gromit. The whole thing's just a bizarre instance of Aardman imitating their own property, which I feel was probably commissioned to them as Wallace and Gromit, but not. Anyway, it wasn't until about 15 years after the film's initial broadcast in 1994 that a video titled Wallace and Smokey was uploaded to YouTube. So it would have been considered lost media up until this point. This has since been followed by a re-upload simply titled Smokey in 2011, then Fire Kills Smokey in 2012, and finally Fire Kills Smokey the Cat in 2016. With all of these videos being various VHS recordings of the same film. So barring these 4 uploads and their vague descriptions, I couldn't find a single piece of information or even mention on the internet of this thing's existence. But if any of you are familiar with this film already, which I very much doubt going off the exposure it's gotten, please let me know in the comments section. I'd love to hear what you all make of this strange discovery that's been buried in Aardman's history for so long. As always, any likes and especially subscribers are greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching. You know, I've got the strangest feeling I'm being watched.